In the span of just over a decade, the French Revolution would claim the lives of over 40,000 people either by the guillotine, massacre, or other forms of brutality, forever changing the course of modern history. The seeds of this carnage were sown in a perfect storm of financial crisis, social unrest, and a monarchy that had become increasingly disconnected from the struggles of its people. By the late 18th century, France was on the brink of collapse, its economy in shambles, and its citizens struggling to survive. The burden of taxation had become unbearable, with the nobility and clergy exempt from paying their fair share, leaving the common people to shoulder the weight of the nation's financial woes. As the situation continued to deteriorate, the need for radical change became increasingly apparent. It was against this backdrop of widespread social distress that the Estates General was convened in May 1789, its first meeting since 1614. This gathering of representatives from the three estates, the nobility, clergy, and commoners, was intended to address the growing crisis, but it would ultimately prove to be a catalyst for the chaos that was to come. The representatives of the Third Estate, tired of being marginalized and ignored, broke away and reconstituted themselves as a National Assembly in June. This bold move marked a turning point in the revolution, as the people began to assert their power and demand a say in the governance of their country. The tension in the air was palpable, and it wasn't long before the situation escalated into violence. On the 14th of July 1789, a mob of Parisians stormed the Bastille, a symbol of the hated absolute monarchy and the arbitrary power of the French state. This pivotal event sent shockwaves throughout the country, marking the beginning of a period of radical transformation. The National Assembly, now empowered by the people, began to implement a series of sweeping reforms. Feudalism was abolished, and the church was brought under state control. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen was issued, enshrining the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity that would become the foundation of modern democracy. As the revolution gained momentum, the National Assembly continued to push the boundaries of what was thought possible. The next 3 years would be marked by an intense period of political and social upheaval, as the old order was torn apart and a new one struggled to emerge. The monarchy, once all-powerful, was now on the defensive, its authority rapidly eroding. The people, emboldened by their newfound sense of power, began to demand more and more radical change. The revolution was becoming increasingly violent, with factionalism and extremism on the rise. The guillotine, once a rarity, was now a common sight in the streets of Paris, as the revolution devoured its own children. The Reign of Terror, which lasted from 1793 to 1794, was a period of unbridled brutality, as the Committee of Public Safety, led by Maximilien Robespierre, sought to purge French society of its perceived enemies. Thousands were executed, often on the flimsiest of charges, as the revolution descended into chaos. The streets of Paris ran red with blood, as the sound of the guillotine became a constant reminder of the revolution's deadly power. The French people, once united in their desire for change, were now divided and at each other's throats. The revolution, once a beacon of hope, had become a monster, devouring everything in its path. As the terror finally began to subside, a new figure emerged to shape the course of the revolution. Napoleon Bonaparte, a brilliant and ruthless military strategist, would eventually seize power in the coup of 18 Brumaire on the 9th of November 1799, marking the end of the French Revolution and the beginning of a new era of authoritarian rule. The revolution, which had begun with such promise and idealism, had ultimately succumbed to the very forces of violence and repression it had sought to overthrow. The legacy of the French Revolution would be complex and multifaceted, its impact still felt to this day. As we look back on those tumultuous years, we are reminded of the enduring power of the human spirit, and the darker aspects of our nature that can never be fully extinguished. The ghosts of the French Revolution continue to haunt us, a chilling reminder of the horrors that can unfold when the forces of chaos and violence are unleashed upon the world.